I'm not used to using one of these, so it's working, I hear, yes. So, it was back in, let me see, can I see, yes, I see my slide there. It was back in February of this year that I got a WhatsApp. I already knew I was going to give the workshop here yesterday, but I got a WhatsApp, and the WhatsApp said, hey, would you consider giving a keynote? And immediately my heart rate went straight up, and there were two voices in my mind, and one was saying, hey, wow, Jules, this is great. And the other voice was thinking, Jesus, are you crazy? You've never done this before. This is very, very different from giving a training. You only have 4 months to prepare. And you know, I saw the thought, and immediately I had to laugh, because it's a joke, isn't it? So, yeah, because for the last 20 years, I've been a personal development facilitator. I've worked with more than 4,000 people. Even psychologists come to the trainings I give. And to be honest, I'm quite a scaredy cat. Every single day, there's a picture of a scaredy cat. Here's a scaredy cat. See, so that's me. So every single day, I encounter fear in one way or another. So for the last, so this is me doing something else scary last year. Writing the book was scary, but this was scary too. So first of all, great, thank you very much for turning up. So that's the first relief. My name is Julia, and for the last 25 years, in one form or another, I have been working together with an organization called Humanication. And they have a vision, which is to create a more human-friendly society. And they do that through uniquely powerful, experience-based trainings. And so I give a lot of those trainings. And several years ago, in 2014, you can see that my book is about geeks. Yeah, Geek's Guide to Work. My work with tech, because I'm not a technical person, the work I do with tech started in 2014 when I was introduced to a very smart, intelligent woman who at that point was leading up a professional services department of a successful tech company. And she asked me to come and work with her team and different individuals in her team to support them to increase their competence and their self-confidence in handling all the human part. And then one thing led to another, the ball started rolling, and since then I've worked with hundreds of people I've kind of lost count of how many tech companies I've worked with since then. Here's a picture, this was me at 22. Having a nice tete-a-tete with a horse in the Pyrenees. I just graduated then. A year later, I came to Holland. I was born and brought up in England. Came to Holland expecting to be here for a year. And as you do, you meet someone and you stay. So I met this lovely man. I'm still married to him. Our sons are studying at university in Amsterdam. They've left home, so we're now kind of in the empty nest phase. And let's have a look. When I said, I said I'm a scaredy cat. So let's look at some of the things I'm scared of. Well, one of the things I'm scared of, if I'm in a car, if I'm a passenger in a car, driving really fast on the motorway, and really fast for me is like over 100 kilometers an hour. And it terrifies me if I'm a passenger, especially if the driver is one of my sons. If I have an important meeting coming up, I can get nervous about it. I do get nervous about it. Like, are the right words going to come out at the right time in the right way? One of the things that scares me is every time I hear about the melting of the ice caps, it scares me. If we have people over to dinner and I'm the one cooking, I get nervous about that too. You know, is the food going to work out? Is it going to be enough? Am I going to burn anything? And for some years, something that was a source of a lot of stress for me, luckily quite a long time ago, but was the stress, am I going to be able to pay the bills next month? You know? So can anyone relate to this? And, you know, I'll get to this in a moment. I'll get to this. So one of the things, you know, all these emotions, by the way, I've forgotten something here. So, you know, talking about the words coming out of your mouth in the right order, already they're going in a different order than I expected. Yeah? So there was one picture that I'm very glad does not exist, but I want you to picture this. It was 1980, and it was a couple of minutes before the concert. It was in Nottingham, in the Royal Concert Hall in Nottingham, and it was a couple of minutes before a concert of the Stranglers. Now, the Stranglers were a post-punk band, which meant that every single person was wearing black. So the auditorium was this sea of black, and there was one 13-year-old girl in the audience. She knew nothing about music. She'd come along with her best friend, and she was so excited about her first ever gig, she'd put on her favorite pink outfit. So you can imagine how embarrassed she was. Yes, that was me. I was totally embarrassed. I was just sitting there hoping that the earth would just like open up and swallow me up. And so then, as now, still, at the age of 56, I am very, very familiar with emotions like embarrassment, nervousness, shame, self-doubt. And these days, there's an umbrella term for all this, which is the imposter syndrome. And people talk a lot about the imposter syndrome, also on social media. Now, you don't need to take long to find posts like this. And you know, within a minute, I looked up on social media and I found this. And then I found this. And then I found this. And really, looking at these sentences, I thought, yeah, I can relate to all of these. So could it be that I have the imposter syndrome? Now, it's part of my work, but also how I like to think. I like to check bullshit thoughts. Yeah? You know, these thoughts that sound good, but they're actually bullshit. So I decided to look up some definitions, and I looked up this: a person who assumes a false character or who pretends to be someone else. And then I looked on Wikipedia for syndrome. You can read this one yourselves, I think. So the thing is, when we use the term imposter syndrome, there's a hidden sentence underneath, which is, first of all, there is something wrong. And secondly, that we are in the minority. Now, I'm going to show you in the next 30 minutes that whenever and if ever you feel nervous or scared, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. And you are definitely not in the minority. Yeah? So I just mentioned various things that I can be scared about, you know. So things I'm scared of, you know, like the ice caps and the cooking from friends. And some of you raised your hands. Who can relate to those things that you're sometimes nervous? Now, here's the thing. Reluctance to admit fear is in itself an expression of fear. Now, I'm totally with you on this, because there were probably some people who thought, yes, I do recognize, but I'm not going to raise my hand now. Now, if my younger self were in the audience right now, she would not have raised her hand. You know, she would sit at the back and she would probably think, I didn't come for audience participation, thank you. or she would start rummaging in her bag, trying to look for something. In other words, those would both be really good ways of avoiding. Now, I want to talk about avoiding. You and I, as human beings, we are very, very practiced at avoiding. And there are loads and loads of ways of avoiding. One of the ways of avoiding is focusing on other people, either in the negative sense, by saying, by getting irritated by someone, by having a negative opinion about someone, by thinking someone's arrogant, and all those things. But just the same, getting, like being really impressed by someone. So focusing on someone else in the positive sense, like really admiring them, kind of secretly wanting to be them. This is also a way of avoiding, because actually we're diverting our attention from who we are and what's working and what's not working in who we are and what we can do about it. We're diverting our attention and we're focusing on something else. And there are the times when we get particularly good at avoiding are the times when our comfort zone is threatened. Because we like our comfort zone, yeah? So anything that threatens our comfort zone, we tend to avoid. Now, a lot of people, everyone knows the term comfort zone, but a lot of people have the thought that the comfort zone is comfortable because it's called the comfort zone. But let me introduce you to there you see, this is about avoiding. I missed that slide. So, the comfort zone. First of all, what is the comfort zone? The comfort zone is the collection of thoughts and feelings and situations and behaviors that we are familiar with. Yeah, and we like to stay in our comfort zone. But I want to rethink this thing, is it comfortable? I have a friend, she's called Natalie. Not really, but she's called Natalie for now. And I've known her for 13 years. And ever since I've met her, there's been this kind of running theme in her life, which has been dysfunctional relationships. When I met her, she was going through a divorce, and it was a very messy divorce. There were children involved. Since then, she's gone through a series of relationships, and every relationship has been like ambiguous. Like, do we have a relationship or do we not have a relationship? And it's been a cause of a lot of stress for her. Not only stress, but also disappointment and actually pain and loneliness. You see, for her, dysfunctional relationships are her comfort zone. And I've said to her several times, you can do something about this. And you know how she answered every time? She laughed and she said, oh, it's not that bad. As if you have to be a total loser, to do some personal development work to get your life working better. So you see, the thing is, the comfort zone is not comfortable. It can be very uncomfortable. It's simply familiar. And the sad joke is, it's simply familiar. The sad joke is that 99% of people prefer the discomfort of their comfort zone over trying anything else. So, time to do something. Time to do something. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand up and turn to a neighbor. So either someone next to you or someone behind you or someone, but make sure that there are two of you, yeah? And I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And in those 2 minutes, each of you has 1 minute. So in those 2 minutes, you're going to share the most pathetic thing you've ever been scared of. Pathetic, ridiculous thing. Now, I can see some of you kind of looking up going, oh my God, really? Do I have to? So, okay, so let me get the ball rolling. I'll tell you one of mine. I've got loads, but here's one. It was 16 years ago. We were invited to a child's birthday party. He was turning 6. And for those of you who are not Dutch, how Dutch birthday parties usually go. It's usually on Saturday afternoon between 3 and 4. You arrive, you come into the living room, people are sitting in a circle. In the middle of the circle, there's food, and the food is usually coffee and cake, one piece of cake. And then after that, it's either soup and quiche and bread and cheese. So that's you see the picture? So I come into this living room, and on the sofa, I see a famous person. He's a famous politician. His name was Wouter Bos. He was sitting there on the sofa. Now, at that time, Wouter Bos was a leader of one of the socialist parties in Holland. Later on, he became finance minister, and later on, he became deputy prime minister of the country. He was sitting there on the sofa. And immediately, I was thinking, Jesus, how am I going to handle this? Of course, I know who he is. He has no clue who I am. And so how should I greet him? And so this kind of, and I'm really not proud of that moment. It was awkward, it was gauche, it was, and so in the end, what I ended up doing, I ended up shaking everyone's hand, and when I passed him, I went really fast and didn't look him in the eye. I mean, it was embarrassing, awkward. So I was simply scared. I was simply scared of doing the wrong social thing. So you're going to get 2 minutes. Stand up. So turn to your partner. You got 2 minutes. You can stand in 3. You can join them. So some of you may have recognized it. That was the Stranglers. That was the bell. Now, so that feels better, doesn't it? Because what happens when we share fear? Now, it could be that some of you noticed while you were talking, you noticed the urge to avoid and talk about something else. Yeah? That's the urge to avoid. But those of you who spoke about fear, you'll notice that it feels better. Now, it feels better for two reasons. The first reason is when we communicate about our fear, when we share it, the fear gets less. And the second thing is, if you and I are talking to each other and both of us share about our fear, something changes between us. It's like we become we can relax. We can start getting real. In other words, we start to show our humanness. Now, if you are ever nervous or have self-doubt or are wondering, really, they gave me the job, really? How come? Everyone else is better than me. So it's obvious there is fear there. You are not an imposter. Welcome to humanness. We're talking about humanness. So the thing is about humanness and about fear, everyone experiences fear, everyone. The thing is that there is a huge taboo around fear. And the authors of this book, both of them Harvard University professors, they talk about a phenomenon that they've seen in all organizations, which is that people are actually doing two jobs. One is the job that they were hired for and they were paid for, which is actually the simpler of the two jobs. The other is a job they're not paid for or hired for, which is the job of covering up their insecurities, covering up their mistakes, their self-doubt, and managing other people's impressions of them, which, on the one hand, for the organization concerned, is a huge waste of resources because a whole lot of energy and time goes into this. And for the individual concerned, it means it's a cause of huge exhaustion, it's a cause of stress, it's a cause of unhappiness. So people pay high prices for this. And I've worked long enough in tech organizations to know that all of you, in one way or another, are struggling with this. And I also know that all of you have at least one colleague who behaves a bit like this guy. You know this guy? David Brent from The Office. Yeah, the English version of The Office. Ricky Gervais is the actor. Now, anyone who doesn't know The Office, watch it because it's hilarious. Now, the thing is with David Brent, the main character in The Office, he is spending all his time showing that he is an amazing people manager and that he's really cool. And what makes it funny in a kind of pathetic kind of a way is that we see right through him. And your colleagues, the colleagues that resemble David Brent, you will know them because they are the ones who like to prove they are really smart, either by giving long lectures and monologues in meetings and going on and on and on and on, or by picking holes in other people's arguments, or using sophisticated words, or name dropping. There are lots of ways of trying to show you're smart, or trying to show they're cool. And the thing is, they don't do it because they're bad people. They don't do it because they're malicious. They do it because they don't realize this. The more we try to prove we are smart, the more we reveal our fear of being stupid. The more we try to prove we're cool, the more we reveal our fear of not being cool. Now, people who behave like this in organizations are the cause of huge problems. Yeah, and it creates a lot of hassle. Don't be a David Brent. Be real. Don't try and prove Be real. Now, I want to tell you about Naomi. I met Naomi 3 years ago. When I met her, she was around 30. She was working for a crowdfunding organization, was a very sociable, bubbly young woman. And I met her because she was a participant in the training that I most love to give, simply because of how life-changing it is, which is Essence, which is given every month in Tel Aviv, but also in Amsterdam. Now, Naomi stood up in the training on day 4, which was Saturday. Day 1 is Wednesday, day 2 is Tuesday, day 3 is Friday. Saturday, she wanted to share. And she said, I'm exhausted in my life. We had a conversation, and she described how in her job, she's really helpful, she's really bubbly, she's really positive. And she said, that's probably the reason I got my job. And it's not there's a problem with that. The thing is, sometimes I need help, and I don't ask for it. There are sometimes days that I really don't feel like really cheerful, but I don't share it. And there are times when, I want to put time into projects that are important for me, and I'm always helpful to other people. And I realize that the reason I've been doing this is I'm simply scared that if I'm honest, I'm scared that people are going to see me as negative or selfish. And while she was telling this, I had an idea. And I had an idea to get her to do something experiential, a really simple thing that would take less than a minute. Really, if I told you now what it was, you'd kind of go, really? Is that it? But it was, for her, it was nerve-wracking. And I said to her, you don't have to do it. She was standing there, and then she said, I'm going to do it. She did it. It took less than a minute. And when she was done, she was shining. It was as if, a burden of 100 kilos had dropped from her shoulders. And I asked the group, I said to them, who of you thought that Naomi right now was selfish and negative? Nobody raised their hand. She was shocked. I said, who of you found her inspiring? And everyone raised their hand. She couldn't believe it. And then she said, I've known this. I've known this phenomenon for many years. I've read books about it. I've listened to podcasts about it. I've done all kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. You and I look at life from inside out. We look at life through our own filter. Now, our filter is like a net. Yeah? And what we see is what our net allows us to see, which is limited. Yeah? And the problem is that when we look from outside in. When we learn through thinking, for example, by reading books or listening to podcasts, it goes through this net, and we only hear what we already know. Our thinking is unreliable. If you want to get out of your comfort zone, you can't do it through your thinking. The only way to do it is through an experience. So, time for another experience. What I'm going to ask you to do is, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn to the same neighbor, and this time really in twos. And I want you to look into each other's eyes in silence. Now, you will notice immediately that there will be a very strong urge to avoid. Yeah? So stand up in silence, in absolute silence. In silence. And you will notice, just look into the other person's eyes, and you will notice that it feels awkward. You will notice. And when you look into the eyes of the other person, you will probably see some signs of tension. Now, also, observe this urge to avoid, to look away, to talk. This is the urge I've spoken about. We are very, very used to avoiding. Now, in a moment, I'm going to stop talking for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Yeah? And stay in silence. Off you go. Now I'm going to give you 1 minute to share with each other about how this was, how it was for you, what it did to you. 1 minute. Off you go.
Times have you woken up and prayed for the rain? How many times have you seen the papers apportion the blame?
So, question. For whom was this out of your comfort zone? Yeah. And for whom was it in any way positive, like touching or exciting or... So here you see, what we see here is when we dare to go out of our comfort zone, and I'm not talking parachute jumping here, I'm talking out of our comfort zone in the way we are with other people, it creates connection, it creates excitement, it creates humanness. Now, I could give you like a lecture of 2 hours about how going beyond your comfort zone creates humanness, and it would give you less than 30 seconds. So, yes. So I just want to leave you with a tool. And there are several steps in this tool. So first of all, when there is something not working, admit it. Don't avoid it. Then, when you see it, when you see anything is not working in your relationships, in how things are going, ask yourself, how am I hiding my fear? What is my fear? Or how am I hiding it? How am I trying to prove? Then ask yourself, do I want to hide or do I want to grow? And it's up to you what you answer. Then you want to set yourself a purpose for which you're willing to leave your comfort zone. Because trust me, if you don't have a purpose, you will not leave your comfort zone. Because you're very, very used to it. Even when you think you're leaving your comfort zone, you're not. Now, what do I mean by a purpose? A purpose could be to learn to start and maintain really meaningful relationships. That's going to require that you get beyond your comfort zone and you learn. It could be, your purpose could be to learn to become a really inspiring leader, where other people are, really excited to work with you and for you. Believe me, you're going to need to get out of your comfort zone to learn that. It could be, your purpose could be simply wanting to learn how to be happy in life, whatever happens. This also will require you to really leave your comfort zone. If you don't have a purpose, you will never leave it. Now, once you set yourself a purpose, then you want to invest in growing and learning. Now, what do I mean by investing? What's it going to take? It's going to take courage, because it will require you to leave your comfort zone, so it will feel uncomfortable. It's going to require commitment, because every time if you don't have commitment, every time it feels uncomfortable or you have an opinion about it, which is also part of your comfort zone, you will stop. So you will need commitment. And you'll also need sincerity. Now, there is a difference between honesty and sincerity in how I work. Honesty is about transmission. When you're honest, you say what you think, your way, when you want to say it. Sincerity is when you're willing to say, you know what? What I honestly thought, maybe it was wrong. This is sincerity. Yeah? This is what it will require from you if you really want to grow. Then you want to ask yourself, so you'll grow and learn and grow, and then you want to ask yourself, am I able to deliver? If you want to be an inspiring leader, for example, you want to ask yourself, am I able to deliver? Yeah? If you don't ask yourself, if you just think, oh yeah, I'm ready for this, it's like jumping out of a plane with a parachute, never having had a lesson. That's not courage, that's recklessness. Yeah? Now, recklessness is bad for your life expectancy. So don't presume. You want to check, am I able to deliver? Am I qualified for it? Have I learned for it? Have I prepared for it? Do I have the experience for it? And trust me, even when you have all this, the fear will still be there. Yeah? Now, when you're checking yourself, am I able to deliver, you want to check from outside in. Because if you look from inside out, some people will continue to think, no, I'm not ready for this, no, I'm not ready for this, when they're absolutely ready for it. Yeah? Other people the other way around. They're arrogant and they think, oh, I'm ready for this, when they're not. So you want to check from outside in. And then you go for it. So you feel the fear and you do it anyway. However, if you're really interested in growing, this is not enough. The next step is to reap the lessons from every single step on the way. What are my insights from this? What did I do that worked? What did I do that didn't work? What were my mistakes in it? What can I learn from this? This is the way of turning anything you do into a source of growth. Thank you for being awesome.